Now we are going to read about the second circulation of the movement of the water of the ocean, and that is the tide. What is a tide first of all? Tide is in fact the rhythmic rise and fall of the water twice a day. It is called as tide. Now we are going to read about the formation of the tide. First of all, when there is a strong gravitational pull exerted by the sun and the moon on the surface of the earth, it is called as, or it leads to the formation of tide. So, two things you have known by now. First is that the rhythmic rise and fall of water twice a day is called as tide. And the formation of the tide is simply because of the strong gravitational pull exerted by the sun and the moon on the surface of the earth. But now we are going to read about the high tide and the low tide. How do they occur? When the water which is closer to the moon gets pulled, and this gravitational pull of the moon leads to the high tide. What about the highest tides that we have? That is the spring tides that we have. Whenever there is a new moon day, that is when the sun, moon and the earth are in the same line, that is the time that the highest tides are formed, and this are also called as the spring tides. Then when the moon is in its first and last quarter, that is the time that it gets diagonally pulled in the opposite direction, that is the sun and the earth, they diagonally pull it in the opposite direction, which leads to the formation of the low tide, which are also called as the neap tides. So, the highest tides are called as the spring tides, and the low ones that we have are called as the neap tides. But we have to remember one thing, that the tides are merely the rhythmic rise and fall of the water twice a day, and it keeps on occurring because of the gravitational pull of the sun, the moon and the earth. And the formation is because of the occurrence of the moon on various phases, and which leads to the formation of various kinds of tides. So, it is merely the gravitational pull which is occurring, but whichever is the strongest pulling in whichever side is leading to the variations in the waves or the tides which occur.